Welcome to the 6th episode of the Revolution Today podcast. I am Dark Knight, your host, and we're back. This is a long-awaited return. We've been on hiatus for over a year, since September of last year, and a lot of things have transpired in that time. I want to cover today where I've been, what has happened since then, and what is going to happen in the future, and maybe a prediction on the November election. So before we get started, we have to thank our sponsor, and our sponsor for today is my Redbubble shop. I have a lot of designs, a lot of merchandise you can buy to support me on my Redbubble shop. Link is in the description. If you go there, you can find things from hats, shirts, phone cases, laptop cases, PC, desk pads, mouse pads, mugs, stickers, backpacks, even masks, anything. You can find a lot on there. So just go to the link in the description, go to my link tree, you'll see it. There's a list of different things. I have another shop that you can buy from, but I don't sell like designs on there. I sell other stuff. But you go to the link in the description, link tree, go down where it says Redbubble shop, click on that link, go right there, and there it is, my whole entire page for you to browse and shop. So without further ado, let's get back into the episode. All right, you're back watching the Revolution Today podcast, episode number 6. Now, today I want to get started and talk about where I've been. You know, it's been a long time since I've done this. You know, I'll admit, I started this last year at some point. It was in like June, July, and where I started doing it, and I got 5 episodes in. And what you won't believe is after 5 episodes, I gave up and I quit. Now, I didn't quit because I hated it or because I didn't want to do it. I quit because I wasn't happy with keeping up with it every day or every week. I just got lazy, to be honest with you. Just realistically, I just got lazy, and I didn't really feel like wanting to continuously every week come up with a video and upload, which what I was doing wasn't much work. It was just me ranting on a microphone and an audio recording for about an hour, and then taking that audio, putting it into Premiere Pro, and putting together a thumbnail and a overlay, and then just uploading it to YouTube. There was literally no real effort to be had on my part, so I really don't know why I chose to stop. And mostly because I also stopped because I felt like I wasn't doing anything or reaching an audience, which, to be fair, that's not a way to go, because I was just starting out, and when you just start out, you're not going to be expected to have an audience right away, and that you should probably keep grinding until you get to that point. But I don't know, I just, for some reason, was getting lazy with it, just decided, just one day forgot to do another episode. I just gave up. But the reason why I'm back is because it hadn't occurred to me to do another episode of the podcast. It hadn't occurred to me at all. I didn't think I was ever going to do another episode because it was just behind me. I put it behind me, and I didn't do it anymore. But then I had a friend. His name's Austin. Shout out to him for putting this on me and let me know. He texted me one day. He's like, hey, that whole podcast thing you were doing, I like that. He's like, I used to watch the episodes while I was at work. The all 5 episodes that you had, I used to do all that, and I really liked what you had to say, and I think that your opinions were really well articulated. And so I was like, wow, that's pretty nice. I appreciate it. And he's like, yeah, you should keep going at it. I mean, you could really get somewhere, I think. So I was like, well, why not? Why not go for it? So I'm back for, as far as I can tell, the foreseeable future. I'll be here. But until then, we'll see what happens. I might go all the way with this. I might end up stopping and quitting for the second time, but hopefully not. So where I've been these past year in a couple months is really I was just grinding my online business. Now, the online business for me was eBay. I would sell products from Amazon or other sites that were on discounted price, but I would raise the price back up to the standard market price, and then I would sell that stuff on eBay and then make the profit and then use the money that they give me to pay for the product, ship it out, and then keep the rest as profit. So I was doing that for a while. I was keeping up with that, but then eventually it got so overwhelming. I was working on it, trying to make money, just to have money, and eventually got out of hand. And I there was a lot of issues, and the customers that were buying from me were complaining, and I was just in too deep. So I ended up getting out, and I quit the whole eBay thing. But I tried that for a while to try to make some money, but it didn't work out in the end. And it's not that big of a deal. I don't really care that much anymore about it because I put that all behind me. So now I'm trying new things. But I am back in the podcasting game. We're here doing this again. I've been investing too, I should say that. I'll go over my investing and my tips and whatnot some point down the road. But for now, we're just going to talk about the whole past year that I've been gone and what's happened, and eventually a little bit about the future. But to get started, a big thing, let's see, 2021 was when I last left off. And at that point, we were just beginning to talk about abortion and the abortion ban in the United States, and about what Republicans really wanted to do in regard to the whole pro-choice, pro-life thing. But it never occurred to me at that time, because that's the episode I left off on. The episode I left off on, I talked about Republicans and abortion and what they were planning to do. And at that point, it was just a plan. We were sitting there thinking, okay, Republicans have a plan to do something. They're planning to take action on this specific thing. It never occurred to me that we would one day see the Supreme Court overturn it and make it up to states. But now it's gotten even worse. It's gotten so much worse. I mean, we went from, okay, Supreme Court finally overturns Roe, and then now it's up to the states to decide whether they want to have abortion or not, to now it's Republicans are actively campaigning and pushing for a nationwide ban. Now, I don't know about you, but me, I'm not particularly fond of, the pro-life stance. I'm not particularly fond of, because we're talking about women's health and women's health care and women's rights at the base of it all. You have these Republican men who, they go to church, they go to their wherever they go to, that's their religious function. They go there. They get a message from the speaker, the pastor, rabbi, whoever, who says things about the Bible, and then they come to the conclusion that, hey, the Bible says let's not kill babies, let's not do abortion. And I think it's incredibly wrong that we have these, let's just say what it is, white men. We have these white Republican men who, majority of them that are in office, are older than 40. They're older than 40. And, there's these guys who are like, well, my religion says abortion is wrong. So that means if it's wrong to me, it should be wrong to you. And if you don't agree, we're just going to do whatever we can to make it illegal so you can't get one. which is very problematic for a democracy, because we live in a country where there is no state religion. There's no specific religion that the state supports or that is allowed. We're allowed to believe whatever we want. We can be part of the Jewish faith, Islam. We could be Hindus. We can be Christians if we want. We can be anything. I mean, that's the whole point of this country, is that you can be whatever religion you want to be a part of, and it doesn't have to be forced upon you. But the problem is we have these older white men, Republicans, who are coming in and saying, well, I think this whole country should practice my religion, and I think that we should force our beliefs on everybody else, which in itself is terrible. I don't need to go into detail why that's terrible, but anyone with common sense would know that forcing religion on people is not a good thing. So you have these guys who are like, well, the Bible says we shouldn't be doing abortions and that we should be protecting life. The only issue is, and this is very hypocritical of them, because they claim to care about the life of the child before it's born. But at that point, it's only cells. It's only a clump of cells. They're like, well, there shouldn't be abortion at all because that child's life matters. I'm like, okay, but in the first few months, that's all you get is a clump of cells. The only thing inside that body is a clump of cells. And then it moves up and becomes more advanced clump of cells. But it's not functioning as a living, human, breathing thing until it's born. But I will say it's not functioning and it's not alive until it has nerve endings. The way that I see it is nerve endings. If you can feel pain, you're alive, because then you're conscious of the pain and you can recognize pain. But until you can feel pain, you're not a living thing. You're not a living, breathing human being. So, in my opinion, it's not killing somebody. It's not murder, like they say, if it doesn't have nerve endings, because they can't register pain. They can't feel it. It doesn't hurt them. So you have these guys saying, well, we shouldn't do it at all and it should be illegal because this is killing a life. But these same guys, these same people in power, these white men in power, the Republicans, well, there's some women, but I don't know why women would side with a party that is against their whole existence. But these white men, these Republican leaders, they clearly, the point is why they're hypocritical is that they claim to care about the body or the child's life before it's born, but as soon as that child is born, they could care less. They go and they say, well, we need to protect life. And I'm like, okay, well then let's do, I don't know, free healthcare, universal basic income, free food for people that need it. And they're like, no, that's socialism. We can't do that. I'm like, well, you said you care about the life of the child, so let's do what would help the child's life in the long run. They're like, no. We meant before they're born. After they're born, we can kick them to the curb and, they can do whatever they need to do. So that's why they're hypocritical. And that's why I think it's a joke that they sit around and they say they care about the child's life, because they don't. And the main point is that they're trying to force their beliefs on people, and they're trying to control women. This is about control, because here's the thing. You look at, they had, what's her face? The woman who's like really, she's like, not supported. She's sponsored by the NRA, or she works with the NRA. Dana Loesch. She goes on a talk show. I forget which talk show it is. I'd have to look it up, but I found this on Twitter, by the way. She goes on this talk show, and they're talking about Herschel Walker and how he claims to be pro-choice or pro-life, but he comes out that he paid for his girlfriend's abortion, And then he sits there and says, well, I don't know that woman, even though that woman is even though he's the father of her child. And so then you have her saying, after the whole thing with Herschel Walker paying for the abortion, Herschel Walker being abusive to his family, Herschel Walker being violent, she says, and openly she says it, she's like, I don't care what Herschel Walker did. All I care about is controlling the Senate. So right there it tells you that Republicans do not care what the people they support do. All they care is that they get control of the government. And this ties into what I found on TikTok. I can't remember the guy's name. I apologize. I did post it on Reddit to a few pages just to get the word out. So I did post it on Reddit, but this video talks about how Kevin McCarthy accidentally leaks the GOP's platform for America. And in this platform that was leaked before being, password protected after a couple hours of being leaked, it says Republicans want a nationwide abortion ban, controlling women. They want to make voter intimidation legal, meaning people can go to a polling place on election day, sit outside with a gun, and threaten to kill people for voting Democrat. And then they also think that if people do still end up voting Democrat, they can just, at the end of it all, take those Democrat votes, throw them out, and say, look, Republicans win. And then basically force the Republicans to win the election, which would in turn be a very big problem for this democratic country because, well, this country isn't really democratic per se in terms of like, the broader world, but these issues are going to cause major problems because in my belief, I think everybody should be able to easily vote. I think that no one should be allowed to go up to a polling station with a gun and say, hey, if you vote for Democrats, you're going to die. You better be voting for the fascists. Like, I don't want to go to the polling station and have someone put a gun up to my face and tell me to vote for the fascist candidate or else I'm going to die. I'd be like, who are you to tell me what to do? Last I checked, I live in a country where I can choose to vote for who I want. But that's part of that's a part of their big plan is once they gain control of the Senate and the House, they're going to plunge this entire country into what I believe to be some type of Christo-fascism or like some type of Christian nationalism, something on that very far right side. You go to the average Trump supporter and you say, well, yeah, they're trying to become fascist. They're fascists trying to parrot these fascist policies and they're trying to turn the country into a fascist dictatorship. And then you have the Trump supporters say, well, that's not true. The Democrats are the fascists and like the communists, they're both fascists. First of all, communists are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Communism is not fascism, and these Trump supporters, I feel bad. They probably didn't pass education in school. They probably didn't get a good education because if they're sitting here saying that far lefties are just the same as fascists, they're not. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. But yeah, their plan is to make any sort of legitimate voting impossible, or their plan is to make it so that only one option can win. Which is why it's very important in this time. I would say, years ago, before 2016, I'd say, okay, go ahead and vote for a third party or vote for whoever you want because at the end it doesn't matter. Because before 2016, there was no extremism. This whole party polarization and the right wingers of the GOP turning to extremism, It never existed. It wasn't really a big issue. So at that time, you could have been like, oh, I'm going to vote third party because neither party works for me. That's fine. But at this point in time, we don't have that option because the GOP has become so far right that they're becoming openly fascist. And this is not the time to vote third party. Just because if Republicans win the midterms, then it's going to look like this country is going to collapse into some kind of dictatorship of the oligarchs, the right wingers, the fascists. They're going to take over, and so that's why it's of utmost importance that everybody bites the bullet and votes blue. Even I'm doing it. And I'm not somebody who likes the Democratic Party. I'm not a right winger either. I'm not of either party. So for me to sit here and say vote blue, that is a very important thing to listen. Or I don't know what I'm saying. Me saying vote blue means this must be a very important time, because if I was saying vote third party, it'd be like, oh, everything's going to be fine, nothing's going to be crazy. But this time around, it's too important to not vote blue, because it's all going crazy. You've got the Republicans basically forcing their religion and their beliefs on everybody, and saying that if we win, we're going to take over the country. We're going to make voting for the opposition illegal. We're going to we're going to take away women's rights to their bodies. And they're going to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. That's the craziest part. Is you have all these people like my grandma, my two grandmas, they paid into that. They worked their whole life. They paid into that Social Security. That's their money that they paid for. But now the Republicans say, nah, we're going to take that away. And they're saying that we're going to take away Medicare and that sort of thing for people who need it. So it's like, now you're just screwing over you're not only screwing over women, you're not only over screwing minorities, you're now screwing over the elderly, because you're taking away their source of income that they've paid for over the last number of years they worked. Then you're taking away the Medicare, which they use to get checked on by the doctor, to get surgeries, to get medicated for issues. You're taking that away too. So it's almost like, at this point, before I would say it's all about the corporations and them wanting to take over the country to push forward corporate interests and get corporate interests in play. But now I think it's just for power. I think that the Republicans are just pushing to control power and have power over everybody. And this is why, if the Republicans win, and this is a prediction, by the way, a bold prediction on my part, because I don't think anyone's going to say this, but I'm going to say here, you heard it here first, that if the Republicans take the House and Senate in 22, and then they take the presidency in 24, regardless if they take the House and the Senate, that's we're done. That's game over. But if they take both, I am going to say that there's going to be a civil war. And it's not going to be the type of civil war that we had before, where it's the North versus the South. Because at that point in time, it was kind of split up. The politics of the country were split. Those in the North believed one thing, and those in the South believed another thing. But now the thing is, it's all spread out throughout the country. There's pockets of Democrat voters in certain areas, and there's pockets of Republican voters in other areas. And they're all spread out differently throughout the country. So there's going to be a civil war. It's not going to be North versus South. It's going to be Democrat districts versus Republican districts. It's going to be people fighting on the streets. Like it's gonna be turned into chaos. But the only way we can save, and I hate to say this, but the only real chance we have at saving things and stopping this is voting. Although voting in the past hasn't stopped fascism, it just kind of prolonged the inevitable collapse into fascism. But to be fair, we don't live in a time where we don't live in a time where there's literal we do live in a time where there's a literal Hitler. Trump is the literal Hitler of our time. We're literally living in a time where it's almost a replication of pre-Nazi Germany. Because you remember, if you know your history, the Nazi Party, the National Socialist Party, Workers' Party of Germany, or whatever they called it, they managed to gain power in the government through the democratic process. You thought, Hitler just rounded up a bunch of dudes and they went killing and starting fires. No, they went through the democratic way. They gained a ton of seats in the German parliament through their party, the Nazi Party. They gained a ton of seats, and then Hitler was able to after Hitler, they did that after Hitler was imprisoned. So when Hitler got out of prison, they had a bunch of seats in the government for the Nazi Party, and then Hitler was able to cozy his way up to the leader of Weimar Republic. And then he was like, all right, I'm in bad health, so I'm making you chancellor, which means you're pretty much head of state while I'm suffering my illnesses. And so now that he had majority power of the parliament through his party, they passed an act which allowed him to assume power and give him emergency powers during war, and just in general, just complete power. So what he did is, after he became pretty much the head ruler with unlimited power that they gave him, he disbanded the parliament. He said, okay, we're done, no parliament. Disbanded the parliament. He became the head of state, the one ruler, the only one in charge, and they managed to do that. And so that's why, that's how it all happened. And the same kind of thing is happening in this country. Like, I wouldn't say word for word, but it's close. Because at this point, I want to say Trump's the Hitler of this country in this modern era, but at the same time, I'm hesitant to say that because the dude is losing power fast. He stole the documents. He's under FBI investigation for stealing the nuclear documents, classified documents. He is under investigation by the New York Attorney General over, stuff that he's done in the past. And, the Republican Party is kind of like pushing him to the side, but Trump is still pushing and trying to keep his power intact. But I don't see that happening. I don't see Trump getting that to that level that he once was. So, in the end of it all, I don't know who the real true Hitler is of the Republican Party, because Trump's losing power. He's probably going to go to jail, and he's old in age, so he's probably not going to last long. If he goes to prison, he's going to die. Like, I'm not even saying that seriously. I'm saying that scientifically. It's just scientifically proven that men die at a much earlier age than women. So he's already pushing his years. So if he goes to prison, he might not make it out of prison alive. Not because the prisoners are going to just beat him up and stab him and hang him or whatever. No, he's just going to die of old age. And then who's going to take charge? I mean, Ron DeSantis? I mean, he has already made a fool out of Florida. I mean, he's a terrible governor. He's a clown. He's corrupt. I mean, just look at what happened the other week. Evidence comes out that when he was given money for disaster relief for the hurricane, he took that money and pocketed it himself and spent it on himself. And also, let's not forget how he spent the taxpayers' dollars to send those immigrants to Martha's Vineyard. It was at the tune of the sum of like $12 million. He spent $12 million of taxpayers' dollars that could have gone to the people who needed help in Florida during Ian, but instead took that money and paid to send these guys. And the way he did it was so despicable. He rounded up. So these guys come in, these immigrants come in, and they're like, we're coming in from, I forget where they were coming in from, but where their home country is. But they were trying to, I think it was like Venezuela or something. They were trying to leave like around that area, trying to get away from all that issues. So they were coming to the country that started those problems in their country. The country that came to the country responsible for most of their issues in their country. Anyway, they came here, and then they get to Florida. First thing they do is they say, "Hey, welcome guys. Glad you're here. By the way, we got blankets and food, and we'll keep you safe. Just follow me." And then they gave them a brochure saying, "You're going to go to Boston, and you're going to be given a housing and food and everything." And so they're like, "Oh." So they get on the plane. They get on this plane after being lied to. They go on and they fly. They don't go to Boston. They don't go anywhere near the Massachusetts state. They go to Martha's Vineyard, the island off of Massachusetts. They go there. And so they're there on this island. And Republicans, what they wanted to have happen was they were hoping that the immigrants would get off the plane. They get onto the island of Martha's Vineyard. And then the residents of Martha's Vineyard would start protesting and getting angry and being, just mad that these immigrants showed up for no reason. Opposite happened. These immigrants showed up and they're like, "Hey guys, welcome. Glad you're here. We're going to help you until you get sent somewhere else." So the residents of Martha's Vineyard decided to be nice and show some kindness, and they helped out the immigrants with food and shelter and everything. And then finally I think it was the governor of Massachusetts, could have been, had them directed to a military camp for the time being. And so they got transported to the military camp. But it just goes to show how much it backfired for Ron DeSantis and the Republicans, because it made him look terrible and made the people of Martha's Vineyard look incredibly nice. So that happened. And so I don't really think Ron DeSantis is going to lead, because he hasn't been a good leader for Florida. So I don't think that he is going to lead the Republican Party. He might, but I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe. I mean, there's a higher probability of Ron DeSantis running the party than anything else. But yeah, I don't know who else would be the leader after Trump gets imprisoned and inevitably dies from old age. I don't know. I just don't know. But the same parallels. I mean, the Republicans are trying to take power in the government so they can pass these laws to make certain things happen. I mean, it's all the markings of a fascist dictatorship. They want to have control over women. They want to have control over the voting system. They want to strike fear in people who aren't voting the right way. I mean, you look at Nazi Germany when they were then they were trying to build up their party and get support. They had these brown shirts going around, and they were like beating up on people, saying, you better vote Nazi party or we're going to beat you up and kill you. And they had these gangs of brown shirts just walking around the streets of Germany, beating up on people, trying to get them to vote the Nazi party. And in the end, they got enough votes, and they became the majority seat in the parliament. The same thing in here. The Republicans are doing the same exact thing here if they give the chance. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter posting like prediction maps and like what their prediction is for the midterm. And then clearly this person's a Republican, because they have in their cover photo, they have all these people sitting on a stage at some event, and each one is there. It's like, it's Herschel Walker, it's Dr. Oz, it's this person and that person. It's clearly they're all Republicans, so you know that the person's Republican. But their prediction was crazy. They said Republicans are winning governors, they're winning House, Senate, pretty much every race that exists, they're winning. Which I laughed uncontrollably, because I'm like, there's no way you think Republicans are winning after what they've done to this country. I mean, you look at Joe Biden, you look at Raphael Warnock, you look at Ossoff. Those are examples of people being fed up with the Republicans. I mean, you had Joe Biden, who won the popular vote and won the presidency, because the whole message was, if you vote for Trump, you're going to get fascism. And then you had in Georgia with Warnock and Ossoff, there clearly isn't enough Democrats to vote them in. As it stands, there's not enough. Like, you went to the primary, you looked at the primary in Georgia for the Democratic seats, and the Republicans had more votes in the primary total than the Democrats had in their primary. So it goes to show that the Democratic Party in Georgia doesn't have enough Democrats to easily win the seat. But the fact that Warnock won his special election over Loeffler, or whatever his name is, it shows that they were able to get enough of the votes needed to destroy the Republican option, because they basically went and said, hey, this is what Republicans have done to your country while in power, and this is what they will do. And so if you really want to do what's best for the country and save what's left of this country, then vote for the Democrat option. And it worked, because you had more people vote for the Democrat than the Republican. And if you know anything from, like I said, the primary, Democrats had less voters in the primary than Republicans. So somehow they were able to get the independents, the non-voters, to come out and vote, which is a good thing. But those are just examples that go to show that people are fed up with the Republicans. People are fed up with what the Republicans are offering, what they're trying to do, and how they're trying to take matters into their hands, and how they're trying to destroy the country. People are fed up. So if we can get in the midterms even people who don't vote or independents to say, hey, I support that you're an independent and that you want to vote third party, but if you don't vote for the Democrats, you won't have that option again. That's the thing. It's just like, yes, I'm okay with you wanting to vote third party. There's nothing wrong with it, but you have to vote blue this time. You have to vote Democrat this time, because if you don't, you're never going to get that chance again, because if Republicans win, it's all over. And it's going to be a problem if they do win, because I don't know about you, but I want to be able to have the option to vote for who I want and for it to actually count. Now, we can argue about how much does it count in this current system, but for the most part, my vote counts to a degree, which matters more than if it were Republicans in charge. It wouldn't matter at all. But we got to make sure that at least this time around, Democrats win on all fronts. I mean, as much as I hate the Democratic Party for being too corporate, too establishment, that's our only choice. Because if we don't vote for the Democrat option, we're screwed. We're screwed. The whole country's screwed. And then at that point, if the Democrats lose, we're never going to get a chance to vote again. Because I just told you, Republicans are going to do anything in their power to make the option, take the option off the table. You're not going to be able to vote anymore. You're not going to be able to vote for who you want. They're going to make that impossible. So we got to vote blue. That's just the only option. That's my advice, is we have to vote blue. There's no way not to vote blue. Considering the issues facing our country if the alternate option wins. We can't just let it go. We got to try our hardest to win. So let me get into my state's race, and who I have to vote for. So in Florida, for governor, I have two options: Charlie Crist or Ron DeSantis. Clearly, I'm not voting DeSantis because DeSantis is terrible for the state. He's ruined the state for me. He's a terrible governor. He's corrupt. I can't vote for him. I mean, and he's Republican. I don't vote for Republicans, so I can't vote for him. Chris, he's okay. I mean, he's not someone that I would vote for if I had other options, because I think that he's uninspiring. I think he is very average at best. I mean, I've seen his policies, and they're just like almost like talking points. Like, none of the policies he's promoting do any real change. He's just kind of like hey, I'm not going to be a fascist kind of candidate. You know, he's not actually going to make any real change or do anything to help the people. He's just there to stop fascism, which at this point in time, I don't care, because I don't have a choice. Because it's either we stop fascism or we let it slide. And then once it slides in, there's no getting out of it. And then I'm going to have to vote Crist on this one. Do I think he's going to win? I hope so. But they get you with these polls. You know, they come out with the polls and they're like, you know, these people are like showing you the polls and they're like, wow, Ron DeSantis is up 20 points or something. And then you're like, oh man, it makes you feel bad. But they always say the polls don't always tell the truth. The poll may say, well, Ron DeSantis is up 20 points. But come election day, that could be like neck and neck. So I mean, for me, do I think Chris is going to win? No, I don't go in and expecting somebody to win, because if you go in expecting somebody to win and they lose, then you're let down and you're depressed and sad. So I don't expect anybody to win. I go in with an open mind, saying they could win, they could lose, who knows. But I'm going Chris for this election. In Florida, I'm voting for him because I cannot vote for the other option. Ron DeSantis sucks. He's terrible. And then for Senate, I have two options: Marco Rubio, Val Demings. Marco Rubio I don't really have a problem with, except that he's Republican, and he definitely supports a lot of the stuff, like supports Trump, supports a lot of the policies that he supports. He's just overall I think he's a bad senator, because, well, he's Republican. I mean, he sides with the fascists, so that makes him a bad senator. But, and the thing about Val Demings is I wasn't going to vote for her either, only because she's a cop, and I have a lot of problems with cops. I don't like cops. I think cops are despicable human beings. Anybody that's a cop, I think you're either causing trouble or you're watching it happen and doing nothing to stop it. So I wasn't going to vote for her because she was a cop, but then I was like, well, come to think about it, this is getting serious. Republicans are actually trying to destroy this country, so I might as well bite the bullet and vote for her. Do I think she's going to win? Probably not. Like I said again, if you go in hoping somebody wins and they don't, you're going to be let down. But do I think she's going to win? No, I don't think she's going to win. I don't think, I genuinely, seriously don't think she's going to win. Not that she has a chance, but I don't think that she's going to end up winning. Just because she's not her there's no enthusiasm around her campaign. She's uninspiring. Again, she has talking points for policies. And her whole thing is, well, I'm not fascist, so vote for me. I guess I'll vote. I mean, I don't have a choice. It's either her or Marco Rubio, so I got to go her. For House, though, the House election, that's the problem I have. Because there's no Democrat option. And I was like, because, no, I looked at the candidates for the House. I was like, who's running as the Democrat so I can vote for him? I go on to the election page to find the candidates. It come to find out there's no Democratic candidate. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? Come to find out the one guy was the one guy was unable to run because he didn't get enough signatures. So he wasn't able to run. So he got kicked off. The other guy, he dropped out. I don't know why he dropped out, but he did. But you actually, if you think about it, the House incumbent for my district is John Rutherford. Now, I have my problems with him, but it makes sense that the Democratic candidate dropped out because you can't beat him. Like, everybody supports him right here because they're all Republicans. The Republicans in this district outnumber the Democrats, like, I'd say 5-1. Like, there's more Democrats there's more Democrats in Miami than there are here in the Jacksonville area. So, it's going to probably, and if I'm able to, which I hopefully am, I'm going to, instead of voting for John Rutherford, I'm going to write in a candidate. It's going to be made up, of course. There's no one running as a write-in, so I'm just going to make up a candidate and write them in, and so that way I don't have to vote for Rutherford. So that's kind of a shame. The last election cycle, there was a woman running against him. I didn't vote for her because she didn't support any of the policies I liked. She was pretty much moderate and average and wasn't inspiring, so I didn't vote for her. And she lost, by the way. By a lot. It wasn't even close. And then before that year, there was an independent. I was going to vote for an independent. That year, 2020, she was running as the Democratic candidate. And then there was an independent who was going to vote for her. He didn't end up running. He ended up not running in the end and dropped out. So I wasn't able to vote for him. So I don't know. I don't know who I voted for. I forget. Somebody. Anyways, this year is really important. So in Florida, I was going to vote in Senate. I was going to vote in the primary. I'm not a Democrat anymore, by the way. I left the Democratic Party after I became a Yang supporter, and after he ended his campaign, I left the Democratic Party. So I'm no longer a Democrat, but I was going to switch back to a Democrat for Florida because I was going to vote for my man Alan Ellison. He was originally running a Senate, but then for some reason, towards the end of it all, close to the primary, he switched to running for the House. Which I guess the reasoning why he switched was because he knew he wouldn't have won against Val Demings. So he's like, I'm just going to switch to House. He didn't win the House seat at all. He wasn't even close. I feel bad. He wasn't even close. But he did run in the House seat for, I forget which district. I think it was the 23rd district of Florida. He didn't win. So I was going to vote for him for Senate, but it sucks that he had to drop out because of Val Demings. But I'm still going to vote Val. I mean, I don't have a choice. It's because it's either her or fascism. So, can't really do anything about it. But that's what's happening in Florida. I mean, it's looking like, I have people say, well, they try to be encouraging. They're like, well, look at this. Florida's becoming more blue and it's becoming less Republican. They're like, because DeSantis only won by a few points this last go around. And I'm like, that's true. But I fail to see how it's turning blue. Because all I see is like everybody saying Ron DeSantis is a good governor. I love my governor. Marco Rubio is great. Val Demings sucks. Maybe there's a secret hidden voice out there that's hiding like this silent majority that is hiding out till election day to vote blue. You hope, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But who knows? It could not. Pennsylvania, I don't live there anymore, but what a show! What a show going on there with Fetterman and Oz. Oz being a puppy killer, a dog killer. Overall just being a grifter. He's from New Jersey, came to live in Pennsylvania to run for Senate, and then you have Fetterman, who's been there his whole life, who's done a lot of work in Braddock as mayor, done a lot of work as lieutenant governor. He's all around just a cool guy. I'm trying to get everybody I know to vote for Fetterman because honestly, Oz says he supports like all the extreme Republican beliefs, but at the end of the day, he really doesn't. And also, not to mention the fact that Oz was recently spotted going to California, of all places, to fundraise for his billionaires. Why is a guy running for office in Pennsylvania going to California to raise money? That doesn't sit right with me. Which is why Fetterman's the better option, because all he's doing is doing rallies and stops in all of Pennsylvania and asking donations from hardworking Americans. So, it's probably the better option to go with Fetterman because at least he's not a lying grifter who kills dogs. And then for governor's pretty easy because Mastriano just is first of all he's a lunatic. He's an extremist who says that that hates women's rights. He says that abortion should not be illegal and that women should not have the ability to murder children, which they're not even alive or children yet. So I don't know how that works out, but he says that. But also, no, I forgot to mention, he has no real money. He barely has any money to spend on the campaign. He puts out an ad every once in a while, but doesn't have enough money to keep running them 24/7. So it's clearly going to be in favor of Shapiro, but we'll have to wait and see. But I do think that Shapiro's going to win outright because with the Allegheny County being hard blue and Philadelphia area being hard blue, I don't see why he wouldn't win. Same with Fetterman. It doesn't actually, for Fetterman it's better because everybody loves him. He's a lovable guy. The whole state loves him. So more people are going to vote for him over Oz because the dude's lived in Pennsylvania his whole life. He's done a lot of good work. He's been very, very helpful as a mayor and a lieutenant governor. So he's the perfect option. And I think that people, even on the Republican side, are going to be like, well, hey, I'm a Republican, but that guy sounds like that the guy's done a real good job, and I support him. I think he's great. Because it's always about person over party. But the problem is that can be problematic because sometimes party over person is better, because if the other option is the other person on the other side isn't a good person to vote for, then it's time to do party over person. But for the most part, it's always person over party. So that's what's happening in Pennsylvania. Although I keep up with Pennsylvania because I used to live there and I'm from there. So I like to keep up with politics. Well, I like to keep up with politics everywhere, but Pennsylvania specifically because I love to see what updates there are on the current race and what's going on. But I think Fetterman's the clear winner in this Senate race in Pennsylvania because he is pro-cannabis. He supports Medicare for all. He supported Bernie, Bernie has shown his support to him over time. But I know he supports legal cannabis, legalized marijuana and all that. So that's definitely a good thing because marijuana is a good moneymaker for states like Colorado. Colorado has legal marijuana, and everybody all the money generated in Colorado has come from mostly marijuana. It's like they like billions a year in taxes just from marijuana. It's like insane. But I think that's going to be a selling point for Fetterman for him to win in November against Oz, because Oz is honestly like he doesn't fit. I mean, he's done videos, okay? He's done videos where he's talked about, he's done videos where he talks about how he loves Pennsylvania and how he's a good working man, and he relates to everyday people. I'm like, dude goes to a supermarket and films a video of him getting groceries, but he's like, where's the tequila at? I need a tequila. Like, bro, if you don't go back to New Jersey where you're supposed to be, then we're going to force you out there because you don't know what you're doing. He's pretending like he's like just your average working guy who goes to the grocery store. I bet you for any money he has someone go to the grocery store for him and buy him his own food without him having to leave. I guarantee it. He's so rich that he probably has his own chef who gets groceries for them and then cooks them food. So I want to give my prediction on the November election. I think, in my opinion, based on what Republicans have said they're going to do and what they're planning on doing, I think that, in my opinion, for the House, I think Democrats are going to maintain the control. It's going to be a lot closer, but I still think Democrats are going to edge out with the majority in the House. For the Senate, I think so too. Because here's the thing. I think Georgia's a lost cause for Republicans because Herschel Walker is a terrible human being who abuses his family and goes around sleeping with all kinds of women, having children with them. Not only that, but he has terrible beliefs, and he just sucks. And then in Pennsylvania, Dr. Oz, he's just a grifter who will say anything to get elected. He doesn't believe half the stuff he says. He just says it just to do it. And, he's rich. He's a fraud. He lives in another state. So I don't think that the Republican Party is going to win the Senate races and have a majority because of those two simple reasons. Georgia, with Herschel, it's not looking good for him. Oz is just a clown who just doesn't know when to shut up. I mean, he keeps going on and on about, I'm an average man. I go to the grocery store. Fetterman, he's gonna unleash all the criminals into the streets. Like, come on, dude. Like, you're just saying that just to get elected. Like, you don't actually believe that. So I don't think that they're going to win in Pennsylvania or in Georgia. So that gives us 2 seats already for the Senate. And I think that we'll hold the Senate. I think we may gain an extra seat, which will give us the edge over the Republicans. Because right now we barely have a majority. We have like a 1-seat majority, and so that's not enough. So I think we can get at least 2 to 3 more seats in November, which will put us at 53 total seats, 53, 54, something like that. We'll be around there, 53, 54 total seats, and we should be able to get things going. And then the Democrats, they say, you vote for us, we're going to codify Roe. They've had 50 years to do it. At this point, I'm just tired of it, of them claiming that they're going to do things when they've had all this time to do it, and they're just now realizing, oh no, they're gonna take it. They've took it away. Now we actually should do something. I was like, duh, you should have done something years ago when you had the chance. But anyway, that's another topic. So I think we're gonna edge governors. I think here's what I will say for governors. Pennsylvania's going blue for governor, and oddly enough, Texas will go blue. I think Beto has a shot because my man's all over the state, doing all kinds of things. He's making a name for himself. He's confronted Abbott on his incompetence when it comes to handling a mass shooting. The whole thing with Harry Styles on tour, he's at the show. Harry Styles is like, go vote for Beto, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's gonna happen. It's gonna go blue. Texas is going blue for governor. I'd like Florida to go blue, but everybody's so like so tight with DeSantis. They're so supportive of him. I don't think Florida's going blue. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. But at the end of the day, who cares? As long as we have a majority, is what matters. I mean, if Florida doesn't go blue for governor, it's gonna suck. But as long as we have a majority in Senate and House, at least, that's gonna help us out a lot. But yeah, those are my predictions. Let me know what you think in the comments, or tweet at me what you think. I'm always available, so you can always hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can check me out. I'll have to update the link in the description to put my actual Twitter, because the other one I had got suspended, but I'll have to update that and fix that. But once I do that, then you can. I'll have it fixed by the time this goes live, so you can go down to my Twitter if you need to contact me or like tweet at me or whatever. But yeah, this is gonna do it for the 6th episode, the return episode. I appreciate you guys sitting around and listening to me ramble. If you have any suggestions on how I can improve the podcast in any way, just leave a comment or hit me up on Twitter, and I can take that suggestion and put it to good use. Anyways, that'll do it for the 6th episode. Once again, we are sponsored by my Redbubble shop. Tons of products, tons of designs, all available for you to purchase if you so like. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to, if you can, go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That'll be appreciated. It's free. It costs you nothing. It would help us grow in the leaderboards and the rankings. And also, send me a comment on YouTube of what topics you want me to talk about next. This was just me rambling on about what's been going on and what's happening, but I want to be more organized in the next episode. This is just kind of a quick return episode where I just talk about what's been happening and what's been going on, but I do want to get more organized in the next few episodes. So if you have any topic ideas or suggestions, let me know. Anyways, I said it before. I keep talking, but this is going to do it for the 6th episode of the Revolution Today podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching, and I'll see you next week.